Well, hello. Welcome back to Trading Weekly. It's Sunday, the 8th of February. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great. It's super cold here. It's I think right now it's 13 degrees, so it's a little bit warmer, but we all almost like 0 degrees and 1 degree here. So that's extremely cold.
It is, yes. It's a bit warmer here, surprisingly. It's about 6 or 7 degrees here, so I say a bit warmer. It's still a bit chilly, but yes, it's manageable when you're walking around about. My light broke, so if you're wondering why there's nothing behind me beaming, but maybe it's better. Who knows? So that's why. Yeah, welcome back for another session. We're looking forward to getting into it. Obviously, we're just a couple of guys looking at charts, giving our perspectives and thoughts and feelings about the stock market. So, of course, it's not financial advice. If you are willing to put your ticker requests in the comments at some point, we will get to them in about 15, 20 minutes or so. We've had a few already come in from Money Managers, you can see there on the screen there, Kay, and other viewers. Palantir, Net, ISRG, and I'm sure many more will come up as well. And of course, massive thank you to Wolf for letting us use the platform. We really appreciate it once again. And we'll dig straight into the slideshow, shall we, Kay?
Let's do it.
Here we go. I should probably put it full screen. There we go. We'll go ahead and get rid of that ticker down the bottom there, so we can concentrate on what we've got in front of us. So as I mentioned, week of February 9th to the 13th, we have got picks today. I've got Rbrk and Kaye has got Rivn, so we'll dive into them a little bit later on. And of course, as we just mentioned, your audience requests will be following shortly after that, so get them in the comments as soon as possible, whether you're on YouTube or if you're on X. Just keep tapping away. Imagine that kind of cat meme that kind of taps at the computer. Yeah, do that. Put all your requests in there, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. Last week it felt a little bit red, but then obviously we recovered on Friday. It's again another very strange week in terms of emotions. I didn't do a lot of trading. I just kind of got on with life, etc. You know how it is. It kind of bypasses you sometimes. But we can see on the screen here, Nvidia down 3%, Apple up 9%, Google down 5%, Microsoft down 8%, Meta down 9%, Amazon down 12%. We'll touch on them a bit later. And Tesla, you can't actually see the percentage because it's behind your head there, Kay, but it's minus 3% on the week. There's a few other big kind of numbers on the screen here. We've got AMD down 12% just over here on the left side of the screen. I think, what happened to Palantir? I can't remember what happened. Down, there we
I
are.
think
So
Palantir
down
was also
10%.
down. Yeah.
Down 10%. Netflix actually surprisingly flat. I did sell out of my entire Netflix position for a loss this week, which full disclosure. Just wasn't reacting to the position on the charts as I'd like to. Perhaps in the future I might add, well not add, I might start another position. Anything popping off the page here for you, Kay?
No, I think Amazon was the key. I talked about Amazon. That was my last week's trade. I actually did not end up taking that trade because right before the earnings, Amazon started dropping. And I was like, because we had such an unusual big gap down right before the earnings, I just didn't want to take that chance of taking earnings because everything else was also having a very negative sentiment. With this whole Anthropic Claude bot, and SaaS is going to disappear. So the whole narrative is kind of dragging the market along with various other news events, I would say. So I decided not to take Amazon, and thankfully I was lucky not to take an Amazon trade. That would have been 100% loss.
Accidentally profitable, not profitable, accidentally making the right decision there. That's what we like to hear in trading. Yeah. We've got a comment here from Verla. Welcome back, Verla. We've had you a few times on the stream. Welcome back, Rbrk. Yay. So yeah, we'll get into that a bit later on. Probably about 5-10 minutes, I think. I reckon. I don't know. Get my words mixed up already. Here we go. Next slide, please. So, fear and greed index. We're sitting just below 50 at neutral again. Last week we were just in the fear about 32, which I think is around about this level, I believe. So we've kind of popped back up again. I think that's mainly due to basically Friday's price action.
No, 1 week ago we were actually in greed. If you look at it, it was previous close was fear. So greed, we were 56.
Yeah.
No,
excuse me there. Sorry, Kay, and sorry for viewers. But yeah, 1 week ago actually we were in greed, as Kay just mentioned. So perhaps we may be just slipping down slightly. But yeah, it's a strange one then, isn't it? Because
and I think
was so green.
And I do think that Friday was more of a short sellers covering rather than actually any, because I think one of the things that we are noticing is that the unemployment numbers are actually getting worse. Amazon, in the latest round, actually have cut a lot of employees, and the And it's not that just the number per se, but it's also the narrative that's going along. Whether you're on X, whether you're listening to CNBC, Bloomberg, whatever you like to hear, is like there is a concern that eventually AI is going to replace all human beings. Now, I think that's more hyperbole, right? It's not going to happen, or say it's less probable for that to happen, but it only takes the narrative for the stock market to crash. And the same thing we are seeing in the SaaS. Hey, if you have these AI bots, AI agents, they can completely build the software from scratch. Whereas, you have seen some, major leaders come out and say, well, that's again a little bit, too extreme, because, that's not going to happen. But as of right now, we are in this little bubble phase, or in this phase where, these things are taking the narrative and dragging the market.
Yeah, we'll touch on the charts a little bit later on. I mean, charts are essentially human emotion, of course, and algorithms as well, of course, but human emotions play a lot in what we see in the charts, which is why you see certain patterns repeat over time, because people's emotions, they fluctuate and they repeat over time.
Yeah.
Not a complete comparison, but you can kind of get my meanings there. Do you want to touch on the left side there? We've got VIX at 17 there, and anything else?
VIX actually went up to 20 plus and then came down on Friday. Put to call, if you remember, we have been in that range of 0.68 to 0.74. We actually jumped up to 0.8. Now that's big, right? Generally, which means that we are starting to get more bearish overall on the market. From a SPY standpoint, it's pretty flat, but QQQ, you can see the drag of 2%. Mega, all the Max 7s reported earnings except Nvidia. Key events, again, we have some of the major earnings coming up. Fed speakers will be speaking throughout the week, but I don't think that's going to add much of the value. I think that the jobless claim numbers is something we need to really pay attention. How is that going to be? Is that going to get worse? Is that going to come flat? That's the key number for me, at least for this week.
That will be on Thursday as well, which is also reviewing earnings. So next, with that, actually, we'll touch on the next slide we've got here. This is earnings for next week. Another fun-filled week. So we've got Robinhood after the close on Tuesday. We've got stocks like Shopify before they open on Wednesday. Thursday's a pretty interesting day. You've got Coinbase, Pinterest, Rivian, which is one I'll be covering on my channel. So if you don't follow me or subscribe to me over there, then go ahead and find me over there. Any other names on the screen? There's plenty of them, isn't there?
Plenty, and I think this is going to be the SaaS week. So starting off with on Monday, before market open, Monday reports. Yeah. So it's one of my picks for 2026, and you can see where it's not doing very well. It's in the gutters right now, but that's true for all SaaS companies, not just this particular name. Then on Tuesday we have Datadog, Fiserv. Those are other key ones. After close we have Upstart, which is the financial services, but we have Cloudflare, so that's going to be interesting. We also have Lyft. We'll see if they come up with any announcements of any tie-ups. You also have on Wednesday before open Unity Software. After close, AppLovin, very very popular. Fastly has been very popular, but HubSpot. So these names are all going to tell us the real picture. And I think if the picture comes out very well for future growth, that may change the narrative. But if they show any weakness, I think we'll probably get hit by more downside on the SaaS names. So on Thursday before earnings, very popular name Nebius is going to report earnings, and I think those are the ones that I am currently focused on. I know there's JFrog as well, Toast as well. I don't follow them as much. Arista Networks is on the AI front as well, and AMAT down there as well. So yeah, so a lot of names. Again, a very Oscar, yes, Oscar is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
about to say that there's another popular name in the industry, isn't it? An Open Door as well.
Open Door, and there's on the SaaS. So there's a lot of SaaS names reporting earnings, and I think this is going to be the SaaS week, which we will get to know. We'll get to see if the trend actually changes, or we are going to continue the downtrend on the names.
Exactly. My focus has got to be on Rivian for sure, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you've got in store for us for later on. Obviously, you picked Rivian for your weekly stock. And likewise, I've picked Rbrk as well. They're not reporting earnings this week.
No, they do report earnings on the 12th, but it's not listed here for some reason.
Oh, okay, really? Oh, I thought it was the week after. My apologies. Okay, well, we'll jump into that a little bit later on. But next, we'll go into the first charts of the day. Unfortunately, I didn't realize this until we just went live, but this is actually a SPY daily chart, not a SPY weekly chart. So let me just repeat that. This is a SPY daily chart, not a weekly chart. The one on the right is a QQQ weekly chart. It's only because I copy and paste from the right to the left and it just didn't change the name. So apologies for that, viewers. But we can see quite clearly that we had a really nice day on Friday in the SPY. It was all doom and gloom. People were thinking, obviously, it's breaking trend lines, and I was one of them, and I am still one of them. I think we are kind of just maybe, like you said earlier, shorts are kind of covering themselves, and then maybe kind of going to go in for round two and push it down even further. And then likewise on a QQQ weekly, we've got the kind of the trend line, not trend line, sorry, the wedge kind of holding barely with these giant candles, the giant wicks either side. So this will be gone within the next couple of weeks for sure, obviously because it's the end of the wedge, and also because of the erratic nature we're seeing in these candles in the last couple of weeks, really. So which way it goes, we don't know. But of course, there's a lot more resistance above than there is support below, in my opinion, as we go forward. But what are your take on these two charts?
Yeah, I think kind of agree with you. I mean, I think the sentiment in general is a little bearish. So we may continue to see more downtrend. And with QQQ weekly, I think we definitely see a break. Now,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
right?
that's
I think we would, or could be flat, but I think we probably there's more downward pressure on the market right now as opposed to um, upward sentiment.
I should have put my, because on a slightly separate chart, I've got the SPY futures and I've got some, maybe we can bring it up in the chart section, but
Okay.
I've got some resistance lines that really showcase the fact that we're at a very critical point in the SPY. And obviously that translates into the weekly, QQQ weekly, with this Fibonacci line kind of not being able to break through properly at this kind of technical area, at least anyway. It's just really trying to break down. So obviously the next leg down, we've got 575, and then below that is 540. So
Do you
yeah, we'll
invest?
touch on that a bit later on.
Do you invest in SPY or QQQ on a regular
No,
basis? No.
no,
Okay.
no. I trade them if anything, so I'll day trade these particular names.
But these are not your
Um,
names that is in your long term portfolio.
no, no,
No. Okay.
I just hold stocks pretty much and
Got
a
it.
few ETFs. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on then to the next slide. So then we've got. So I kind of blew you away last week.
Yeah,
It did help.
that was. I wasn't expecting a 14% move, even in the in the green direction. But I mean, Amazon has been. I mean, I really feel like Andy Jassy is not a great CEO, or at least hasn't proved it to be a great CEO. At least Amazon price has not really. But it is what it is.
He's not changing the world, is he, anytime soon?
Yeah.
But yeah, touching on the last week, I had Neo last weekend. It did help that they posted an article earlier, pre-earnings that they're going to be profitable, which is obviously great news for the company. Finally, after 7 or 8 years or whatever it is, reception, finally getting profitable. But yeah, that was handy on Wednesday, I think it was. And then obviously Amazon earnings didn't help you out, so you were down almost 12% there. So it's 2-2 on the year now. Obviously, it's just a bit of light-hearted kind of competition, nothing too serious. The positions we talk about more often than not are for kind of longer term, 2 to 3 months out, sometimes years as well. But you can find me on X and YouTube, as you can see on the top left there, Sean Trades _. I do lots of live streams on YouTube now. I have been doing them for about 6 months now. And obviously on X, I will just basically be posting charts that interest me mostly. I've kind of narrowed them down and kind of posting that quality out there. But where can we find you then, Kay?
Well, similar to Sean, you can find me on X, YouTube, and Substack under the handle InvestK.
Awesome. Okay. Nice and short and sweet there, Kay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we'll,
keeping it.
we'll move on to the first pick of the week, which is my pick, which is Rbrk. I don't
Mhm.
actually have a ticker because they took it off on the slide, which is a bit annoying. So RBRK is the ticker symbol. And we are kind of at this point of support, which I quite like. And I've drawn out a kind of hypothetical position here. Just a really kind of short swing, essentially, and it's kind of lower risk because if we, for example, we've come back down to this key point of support around this. I forgot my glasses. almost $50 thereabouts. And of course, we do have this volume profile kind of popping out on the right side as well. So there's a couple of points of confluence there. And I'm sure if you go back on the bigger time frames, there'll be moving averages that kind of come up below that. But I didn't include that because it would be too complicated on the chart. But very simply, I want to move back towards that kind of $60 level, which from here, fortunately, the percentages are not there either, which is a bit of a shame, but it is essentially kind of 8 to 10%, I think, 20%, about 20%, I think that is for a return. Just playing back to kind of previous supports, as you can see back in the past here. And obviously the moving averages are coming down, so that will act as resistance as well. So it's a very short, sharp move. You know, it may take a couple of days, it may take a couple of weeks, but this is the kind of move that I'm after. And we can see the earnings are actually predicted to be in March. Okay, I've got here on the screen.
Oh, that's funny. On Seeking Alpha, it says they report earnings on 3. Oh, yes, you're right. It's not 212, it's 312.
3/12,
Absolutely.
yes.
Right.
We've
Yeah,
still
yeah,
got
yeah.
mid-March. We've still got another
Couple of
another
weeks,
month.
4 weeks.
Yeah, another month to kind of get this price action moving to the upside. But like I say, this could punch down and we could take us out of the trade straight away. But that's okay because the risk is very, very low in my opinion. Um, Obviously, sizing has got to be a factor if you're going to be looking at this potential trade at all. I'm not even in it, so I couldn't say that I'm going to take it anytime soon. But I like the look of the setup in my opinion. Risk to reward ratio at least anyway. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this chart and maybe Rubrik in general?
Yeah, so I think I kind of posted my feedback on one of the audience members asked about Rubrik. So I was under the assumption that they're reporting earnings on 212, but it's actually 312. Anyways, but I think the key is this week we have a lot of SaaS companies reporting earnings. Rubrik is also kind of bundled in that group itself, even though they are not specifically just SaaS. They have the AI on the security side as well. So I think personally, I'm watching the 44 and 40 level. I do think there's going to be a downward pressure, continue to have a downward pressure. And because until there is the current chart is clearly a falling knife, and I generally don't tend to like this, because what can happen is we could see a pop here and there, and then we'll continue the downward trend. So that trend needs to completely stabilize, which I don't think it has stabilized, or don't have enough evidence that it has stabilized. It also has to align with the broader market per se. And until the SaaS names don't stabilize, I don't think we're going to have a stabilization in the price for Rubrik either. So it's kind of like a sympathy play along with the SaaS companies. Now, what I said was like 40-44 is something that I'm really eyeing to actually start the selling options on this one. But if they don't hold those support levels, I think there is really not much volume until we start hitting the 30s, mid 30s. And that would I would really get interested, because at some point in time, these SaaS companies, if the SaaS stocks will get the valuation will become so cheap that you may start to see the trend reversal. I don't know if we are there yet.
Yeah, interesting thoughts. Your thoughts are there a bit more longer term, I think, than mine, which is obviously fair enough. We have a comment here as well from Verlev. What do you guys think about Rubrik's management? I can't say much on Rubrik's management. I don't follow them much as an actual company themselves. I'm just looking at this more purely for the technicals. Do you have any thoughts on the management at all?
It's it's a very subjective, you know. I don't know. That's my answer. I don't know.
Perhaps we could have a little look into the company this week or in our next couple of weeks, and we can come back with
Yeah,
obviously
I
a bit more
mean,
of an answer there. Because I'm looking at the lines. I'll bring them up on the screen. Why not?
I have heard the CEO a couple times. I think the CEO also had appeared on CNBC or Bloomberg, I forget, but in one of those channels he was there. But this was a little bit earlier, like when the stock was actually rallying. At that point of time, I saw his interview, but that time I wasn't into Rubrik, so I didn't pay attention. But I think it's a good point. I mean, we can take a look at. But go ahead.
Yeah,
Put
so
some
here we've got
numbers.
the revenue obviously slowly increasing over the quarters. Net income is kind of slowly coming back up to level. Perhaps
Yeah, you're
they're looking to
basically
get
improving on
profitability.
your losses, right? You're losing less money every single quarter. That you want to see, that you want to get to profitability.
Yeah, and positive cash flows is what is here, but you can see there's steady dilution kind of happening over the last
Yeah.
bunch of quarters, with increased debt as well. cash and bonds are increasing, but also debt is, which is not great. But yeah, I mean they're moving from bottom left to top right generally, so that's always a pretty good sign in my book. Perhaps it might be a bit too early, as we've kind of touched on with the chart as well. But definitely one to keep an eye on for future
Yeah, it's
prospects, I think.
it's definitely you're not going to see outsized moves happening in a week or so, right? Even if you get into this name, this is a swing trade name. This is not something you're going to see a remarkable return next week or the following week. It could take
Yeah,
a couple quarters, and as I said, this is part of the SaaS names. So until the whole narrative changes around them, I think it's going to be very difficult for Rubrik just by themselves to trade back at its all time highs.
awesome. Okay, I think we spent enough time now on Rubrik. We'll move on to your pick of the week, which is Rivian. I'm really excited about this. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Kay.
So, Rivian, what we are hearing, the rumors are that they will announce the launch on R2 on February 10th. Now, again, these are all rumors. There hasn't been any official announcement, but there's a lot of buzz among the EV influencers who cover EV space a lot, and especially the Rivian EV folks. I think somebody did mention on X that they are not allowed to publish anything until the 10th. So the embargo will you can start publishing things on 10th. So that's why everybody is assuming that there will be some sort of a launch um, on February 10th, and that will be 2 days before their earnings, which was on February 12th. So I think that is very bullish for the company because that's the key number or the key event that's going to impact the stock price per se. Now, why do I think it's bullish is because, first of all, you can see that once they launch the R2, most likely during the earnings call, they will also release how many reservations have been done for R2. If it's in, like, let's say, I don't know, 100,000 reservations, then the analysts can actually start to put together some sort of like what the return is going to be, how much the cost is going to be, is the profit going to improve. So you will start to see those numbers starting to come out in the next couple days or so. The stock was trading around what, 21, 22, and it has pulled back to the 13s. And I think right now this candle on Friday, pretty much every stock had that strong candle on Friday, but I think the earnings, this is the make and break moment for Rivian. If this sticks, I think we can see Rivian going back to trading in the 20s, and then eventually our price target of 25, 30, 35 onwards. Um, so that's, but I do think there's a good swing trade that could be a possibility for next week for Rivian. And you
Yeah,
will play the news basically.
Yeah, I think if everything goes well for Rivian, they do productions pretty well as well alongside the reservations. I think I'll stick by my target the about 30 40. I don't think it'll stay for 30 or 40, but I think it can get to 30 or 40, which sounds crazy from here, but all it takes is a few good weeks and we're back up to 25, like you say. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting this week. I really liked the fact that we dipped into the low RSI this past week, so just above my head. You've got the RSI. I think it was about 26. I think at the top of my head.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
it below, yeah, it's below 20.
Anytime it goes below 25 in my book, you've got 30 and 70 on here, but I've got 25 and 75 on my chart. Any time it goes below 25, that's if you're bullish on the stock, for the longer term, that's a good time to kind of get in, providing everything's kind of looking to go smoothly in the future. But yeah, other than that, we do have this trend line that looks like it wants to break as well, which is interesting coming up to earnings. This Thursday. Yeah, the obviously rumors and things, they do spark price action here and there. Don't be surprised if you get a bit of a sell the news event as well, potentially. But the stock hasn't gone up to sell the news, but maybe the opposite happens, like you mentioned. But just be careful if that doesn't happen, then perhaps we might get even further selling.
Yeah.
Going into Rivian earnings. So I would be buying into the rumor. I'd be buying into the earnings after that potential non-rumor. I think what you've done in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, is buy kind of options and stuff before the market close going into earnings. Is that
Exactly.
something you're looking to do for Rivian this week?
So Rivian is my more of a big position trade. So per se, I'm not interested in playing the week per se. But what I'm going to do though if we do see a rumor, like for example, they launch on the 10th and the stock runs up, I'm actually going to be buying a put, because
Yeah.
generally what happens is buy the rumor, sell the news event, right? So there's a lot of enthusiasm. R2 gets launched, and suddenly everybody on X is going to be go hoo hurrah, and it's the next best thing to sliced bread is going to happen, and that's when you buy the put. And basically, once the earnings happen, the earnings complete, most likely we'll see the sell the event. It could not, but it's basically going to be the hedge to my long term position. Now, if it drops on, let's say, on the 10th, R2 gets launched and it doesn't get that fanfare treatment and we see a dip, I'm actually going to increase my position size even more. So that's the plan.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be very exciting on Thursday after the market close. I don't want to encroach on your chart too much, but I will be streaming that on my channel. If anyone's watching, they're interested in actually watching that. I might even come on and actually give commentary. Who knows?
Listen, if you let me know, I'll hop on with you.
Oh, let's do that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get that sorted for Thursday, 5 p.m. I think Eastern time. I don't know what that is on the West Coast, but
No. So 5 is 2 p.m. West Coast. So
okay, there you go. 2 p.m.
Yeah,
and 5 p.m.
Yeah, 5 p.m. Yeah, let's talk offline. We can chat about it.
Okay, sweet, cool. Okay, that's the charts for the week. I had Rbrk and Kaye had Rivn. Both really good charts in my opinion, I think. I want to have a quick question. I like to throw questions at you without even telling you. It's only because I just thought about it. But with the market kind of having these downturns, these really vicious kind of red days, is that a good time to be thinking about long dated options, specifically leaps? And
Yeah,
how would
I
you go
mean,
about buying
you
them for the viewer?
so
Because
you
recently,
should be buying leap. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So say, because recently, obviously, we've seen the kind of smaller type stocks come down 30-40% from all-time highs. And then specifically in the last couple of weeks, we've had more stocks that have come down 10-20% in one day. Obviously, they're the times you typically buy them. But I'm just thinking, would you be looking at that in the current market state, essentially?
So the answer is nuance in terms of depends on the company.
Right.
So moving that aside, generally you should be buying the leap options on the red day standard, right? Because you are going to pay less. You're going to get some sort of a discount, could get 5%, 10%, whatever, right? You'll get some discount as opposed to buying a leap option, a leap call option on a green day. So that's standard. Everybody pretty much knows that. Question comes, like, so for example, let's say stock was trading at $100. Let's take Rubrik for example. Let's say if we had bought a $80 call option for January of 2027 and the stock was trading at 70 and you bought an 80, whatever price you would have paid, right now you would be, that leap option would be heavily negative, right? Could be down 50, 60%, right? But because you have the leap option, which is, let's say January, so you have still have about 10 months to go on that. So you'll probably just sit tight on it and hope for the recovery to happen. The other option is that you actually, because it's very difficult to catch the bottom. You don't know when the bottom is going to be, right? The stock could fall from $50 to $20 tomorrow. And if you buy the leap today, that leap call option will be in negative either, right? So you really, there's no like right answer. But what I would do if I want to buy 3 leaps, for example, I would, at this point of time, I'll do the same thing. I'll do a tranche. I'll buy the first leap, maybe at $40, right? Now, also depends on how you buy a leap. Some people buy out the money leap. I buy deep in the money leap because I basically am doing a stock replacement instead of hoping for that big upside, right? So I'll buy a 80 delta, 70 delta in the money leap. So I'm already paying a lot of money. So I want to buy on a red day so I can get that discount a little bit more.
So the more you buy over time, obviously your average price will come down.
Correct,
right?
correct.
Yeah.
And also not just the average price, you also extend the time. So let's say your first leap is Jan 2027. You only have 10 months left. So next one, you don't buy Jan 20, you buy if it's a June 2027 or a Jan 2028, because you want to spread the leap out because you need the time for the turnaround to happen in leaps.
Yeah.
That's basically the key here.
Awesome. Okay.
Because stock, unlike stock, which you actually own, commons, which you own in your account, no, it can go to zero. The company could go bankrupt. Until then, you'll hold the stock in your account. Options is not like that. you will lose money fast, and even before getting to expiration, you could be sitting at zero, or you could lose like 80-90% of your money you have put against the options.
Nice. I like throwing random questions at you. I think it's maybe the viewer might be thinking about these sorts of things. So just throwing these random questions at you. You didn't even know that was coming, so sorry about that. Okay, we'll go back into the chart section
Well,
then. We do have a few audience requests here, so we can start going through those.
okay, first one is Palantir.
Okay, we're on the weekly at the moment. I'll just jump to the daily. So we had a bit of a red week. I say a bit of a red week. We had a big red week. And it's coming back down to that zone I think we were talking about last week. It must have been last week because we had it brought up, I think, by
Yeah.
Money Manager as well. That 120 area is where I liked it, and it's kind of on its way there. So perhaps that might be a nice place to. I don't know if you in the stock, not you personally, but if anyone's watching, if you're in the stock, it might be a nice place to start a position. But just be wary of where the market is at that point. You know, you have to have a look at the kind of spine of QQQ. If it's breaking those trend lines and breaking those supports, the likelihood of that's carrying on is quite high, and therefore it's got to bring down the rest of the market, and it's got to bring down names like this because obviously Palantir is part of this, the major indexes. Yeah, I like it at 120 personally. Just I'd have them look at the market structure at the time. What are your thoughts on Palantir?
Well, I think my thoughts are that it's still a falling knife.
Well,
And
yeah, definitely.
and no matter how great of a company it is still part of the SaaS bucket. So unless the whole SaaS narrative changes, we could continue to see pullbacks. Now, I'm not saying it will go back and fill those gaps that it created when it ran up, but this is a gap fill season, right? I mean, things could go south. But of course there are levels, right? You would have these different levels, like 133, 134 is one where you see a lot of trading happening. So that is going to act as a resistance, or sorry, act as a support. And all the way going up to like 115 or so, there's a lot of trading volume sitting there. The problem comes if we see a major correction, major pullback, and we actually lose those levels. And it's not that far to lose that level. You basically have to come down what? Yeah, probably 12% from here. For a stock like Palantir, 12% is nothing. The problem starts to come is that there is no volume from there onwards. Like there's very less volume until you start hitting under $100, and that's where the problem starts coming in.
I've got a line here from 80
Exactly.
to 90, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's
So again, the broader narrative has to shift or change for Palantir to also benefit. Because if you keep hearing that, hey, AI is going to, you can write your code and you can build the app, and companies don't need software, which I think is very ridiculous. I saw somebody posting, hey, you don't need project management software, and you can just run the AI agent and it will create status reports, which clearly shows the person that posted, I'm not going to take names, has never probably worked, because status report is not project management. And I'm going to just leave it there. For folks who are in that field may understand what I say is, but anyways, I leave it that. But I think it's a little bit too much here going on. But at this point in time, I would not start a position. But if you are in long-term position and you are down from your cost basis, then I would start to nibble to lower your cost basis. That's from a long-term standpoint, right? That you're going to hold the stock for years and years to come.
Yeah, let's have a look at maybe a bigger term. Just go to the weekly chart for Palantir, because obviously it's made a very impressive move in the last few years. To see RSI kind of dipping down to kind of 40 on the weekly. Perhaps if the RSI got down to below 25 here on the weekly chart, that might be interesting, and that might be around this sort of area.
Which is what area? What, 88? What was that area?
80 to 90, that kind of
Yeah,
area, which is also the 200 moving average, coincidentally on the weekly moving average, on the weekly chart. Sorry. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely not a buy yet. I thought I was interested about 120, but the more I look at this chart, the more I don't think I actually am. But yeah, okay, we'll move on then to the next chart.
Next is Net Cloudflare, and I think they report earnings
Tuesday, isn't it? I think
Tuesday. Yes.
Oh, look at that. I love it when I see an arrow on my screen, which is actually a Pltr. So the last time we've looked at it was back here, because that's where obviously we've drawn the line from. It's come perfectly down to the previous trend line. This is again still the weekly chart that I'm on, following on from Pltr, the last stock. The initial trend line starts here, the top left-hand corner, kind of comes across the highs here, breaks out, comes back down, retests, and makes a move higher. So we're looking for that kind of larger retest, which is kind of in play now. So we'll dive into the daily chart following that analysis, and we can see a nice reaction. Obviously, Friday was a big reaction day just generally throughout the market, but we do have moving averages galore above the stock price. So I'm not saying get into this at all, and I probably won't for many weeks, but earnings Tuesday, just be careful going into that if you are holding this stock. But I like it at these levels. I just don't want to add it before, or not add it, but start a position before earnings, because that's just,
Yeah.
suicide.
So my thoughts on this, I'll give you 2 data points. If you want to play earnings, you can. The actual earnings move happens to be about 11%. So you're looking at around $19 to $20 plus minus. That's the range where it should move. And the options market is overestimated about 58%. So generally they anticipate is going to be a 12% or 13% move, but it 58% of the times it only moves about 11%, right? So that $20, $19 to $20 is your range basically for the move. So you could play, you could do an upside of call credit spread, or you could do iron condor or something like that if you are into options, without you know anticipating the direction on where should it go up, should it go down, right? That's one way to play.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sean, do you draw the trend line which touches the most candles and wicks? Yes. Do I have a trend? Do I draw a trend line? Yes, essentially. This
let,
is
let
the
me
answer to that.
let me expand on that question a little bit. So if you are using the wick to draw, then you should
Yes.
use always the wick, or you use wick one place and you use the bar the other place. You see what I mean?
Yeah. So it's tricky because I use the wick when I draw the initial trend line, but when I want the move to play out, so for example, we've actually got a good example here. So I draw the initial line, so that's like a wedge formation trend line from the wicks or near enough to get the most touches. But then when I enter a trade, I'll look at the body of the candle. So I want the body of the candle to finish outside of the trend line. So that's when I would enter. I wouldn't, not specifically, but it would come back down and retest, and that's when I would enter, and then it would make a move higher. But yeah, whenever I draw a trend line, it's normally always on the wicks. I did go through a phase, especially in the early parts of, I think, these streams and back when Nate was on here as well, where I would draw the trend lines from the bodies of the candles. I guess it's personal preference. There's not a huge amount of difference, but if you get a really wicky day, obviously it's a high volume day, sometimes those candles do hold, and I guess it depends on each stock as well. So just have a look at those charts and just play with those lines. I've started now just doing wicks, as I've kind of just mentioned at the beginning of this talk. But there's no, I don't have any issues with people using bodies, only bodies of the candles. What do you use? Any bodies, or you just go straight
I
to the
think
body?
I just make sure that it's touching the as number of candles as possible. So if I'm using a wick, I'll use the wick throughout. If I'm using the body, I'll just use the body throughout. But I don't have very specific ways like you, because you have a very specific way. You want to make sure that you are a breakout trader, right? I'm not a breakout trader. I do trade breakouts here and there, but I'm mostly a range bound trader. I like stocks to be in the range so I can actually trade them. So that's the way I draw it.
So here's one from Rivian. So you can see I've basically touched all the wicks there, and there's some bodies in there, but just getting the most general amount of movement you can with the line. So there's any other examples? This is Neo. So again, you've got 1, 2 wicks at the bottom of the body there. I don't think Grab has one. Snap has one. So again, I've kind of used a body instead of the wick for here. I guess it just depends on the name. Thinking about it, yeah, I think it just depends on the name, whatever kind of matches up.
You have a follow-up question, Sean?
Follow-up question from Nihalala. I hope I said that right. Thanks. Can you please any book/videos for TA? I've got a whole bunch of trendline videos on my YouTube channel, so go ahead and check them out. But of course, there's loads of stuff out there. Books, no, I don't. I don't really use books for trendlines. I never have done. I feel like trendlines is a very visual sort of. When you look at the charts, it's very visual and you're understanding personally. But yeah, there's loads of trendline videos out there. There's a few good traders that do it. I mean, Tori Trades is a very popular trader. She basically just trades trend lines, so maybe have a look at her. If you're interested in knowing that, just DM me and I'll do the proper name with the. But yeah, that's that. What's next? Okay.
The next one is ISRG.
ISRG, Intuitive Surgical. Snapchat, by the way, what a week! Did you see that? It reported earnings, actually pretty good earnings, and absolutely dumped on the earnings.
Oh man, I should buy the leap then.
Yeah, I posted a tweet earlier on X around Snapchat.
It's like there's so many tickers that I'm tracking that it's like humanly impossible to just track everything.
I mean, it looks ugly. I mean, that's the chart there. So we will get back to ISRG money managed, don't worry. But you do have previous support back from 2018 there. So there
What a
is
shitty stock. Oh my
something
god.
there. But yeah, anyway, ISRG. Okay, this is the weekly chart, as we just previously mentioned. It's going pretty well generally. Let's go ahead and draw that trend line that we just spoke about.
They report earnings in April, mid-April, so you got a while. Do you think like Facebook should just buy out Snapchat at this point in time?
I don't think it needs to, does it?
Yeah, that's true.
They've got their ad business. They don't really need anything else. If
That's
anything, Snapchat's trying to compete with them, of course. But
I mean, if Snapchat continues falling like this, I mean, it might become a pink slip OTC.
the thing is, I mean, Meta obviously is Facebook. The best Facebook is, I don't want to be generalistic here, but it's more for the older generations.
It is. Yeah, I agree.
And then Snapchat, every kid I see, which is not many obviously, but every child I see, they're always snapping people. I'm just thinking, I mean, I don't use either, but do you use any of them? No. No, okay. So then
I stopped using. I think the only reason I use Twitter is basically for investing and trading material. Otherwise, I find it's a lot of work. I have enough things to do in my life.
Yeah. So I mean, Snap is showing growth in a lot of areas, but that's not about this. ISRG. We'll move back onto this chart. Trend line generally going pretty well. It's broken down below the 20 and the 50 moving average, which is not ideal. Lots of volume here though. Let's go to the daily, get a bit more of a detailed look. Yeah, so look at that, broken down below all of the moving averages. But like I say, it's kind of at this kind of pivotal level for the trend line. In fact, Wednesday was a really nice day because it bounced off of that level. I wouldn't be playing this to the upside. If anything, was that a gap fill? It was a gap fill. Your favorite, Kaye? Gap fill.
Mm-hmm.
Just there. So that's happened.
I feel like it's a gap fill season. It's like there's stocks, they're just filling gaps left, right, and center.
More so than I thought, actually. I thought maybe it might take a bit longer for these gaps to fill, but a lot of them are filling really quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I had I think on my account I had posted 4 stocks. I had posted they were filling gaps at that.
Yeah.
Right. I think it was one was Shopify. I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue.
The Invest K Twitter, what he's going to do now is repost that same tweet like right now. Come on, Kaye, do that.
Yeah, just
so
did.
People can go to
Just
and have a look at those gap fills. I don't have anything else to really say about this. Is that a critical point of support? Sure, but I probably still wouldn't buy it. Partially because I don't really know what they do, but earnings have been really good because you can see at the bottom there all those green shields.
So what I can say though, if you are an investor in this one, and this is not from a trading perspective, from an investing standpoint, and this would be a good place to add on, right? Because it did the gap fill from the previous run up. It's so far so good. It's holding the support level. So from a long term perspective, I'm assuming you're looking from this from a long term perspective. The company has pretty good balance sheet and everything. I like it.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, says Nihalala. You're welcome. We'll move on to the next stock.
Yeah, APH.
Amzn Corporation. This one keeps coming up. Who's
What
brought
what
this one up?
what is it? It's Neha.
What? Oh, I know Heather. Okay. This one was brought up before from someone else. Who was it?
That
Oh,
I
it's
don't know,
back.
but this was brought
Um,
up. Yes, you're right.
you can see there's a bit of a mess here with all these lines. I thought maybe it'd come back down and retest the line, which it didn't. It kind of breaks straight back down. So we're kind of back in this channel again. So maybe perhaps a combination of the stock coming down to maybe this level and the 200 millimeters coming up to here. So maybe that would be a point of interest for whoever invests in this particular stock. We'll get rid of that, obviously, and that is not current anymore. Yeah, I would probably just say the 200 million average is probably the next point because we've lost the 20 and the 50. Support and resistance. We've got a line here. Again, we could just lose that and go down to 200, which ironically is the bottom of that range. We've got a bit of a range here, so perhaps we come back to, yeah, I think definitely this sort of level would be interesting, which is 121, 120-ish, something like that.
That's
Any
pretty.
thoughts on this one, Kay?
No, I think got it covered pretty good.
It's had a good run though. I mean, for the beginning of from May of last year, we were sitting about $72, and it's
Wow.
over doubled since then. Obviously, it's kind of sitting just below the double mark, but yeah, investors looking pretty good. Maybe they're thinking about taking some off the table and maybe adding a bit further down the line. But if I was going to add, if I was a long-term holder, I would be adding around that kind of 120 line where that 200 million average is. Okay, we'll move on.
Next is Grab.
Grab.
Yeah,
This one's seen better days.
this one
Um,
definitely has seen better days. And I think after losing that upward trend, uh, right now it's basically testing all the support levels. And your 200 SMA is coming around 3.8. So I'm definitely going to be watching that very carefully.
I bought leaps in this a few weeks ago for January 28. I think I
Yeah,
told you about that, didn't I?
yeah, you did. Yeah.
Can't remember what they were. I think it was $5, something like that. Still, plenty of time on the side. But if we are to lose this channel, then this kind of 380 line would be definitely a point of maybe adding to the leap or even starting a long-term share position potentially, because you've got resistance, 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 resistance again there and support here. So that's
Yeah. What's the
not
level that you
380
have there?
specifically. I've got
388, right?
380, yeah, but anywhere around that, I think probably from between 390 and 370 is a good place to start. Having a look because you've got all this volume here on the right side. But don't just add for the sake of it. Add because the company is going in the right direction. I think that's important to say because you could just add to these positions without even looking at what the company's doing. Because you can get very lost in life and miss a couple of earnings reports and not actually realize what's going on with the companies, not specifically Grab, but any company.
Yeah.
So just keep on top of your investments. Is
And
what I
and
would
and
say there.
and also, if you notice, right? I mean, I just drew um, the volume profile, at least on my side. I mean, if you see at these levels, you don't have enough trading volume compared to some of the previous levels where the stock had traded for, like, basically being range bound. So a lot of
Yeah.
buyers and sellers are stepping into those levels now. Like, these levels are not tested as extensively as they were being tested a little bit earlier, or the previous levels or the levels below it. So it
Mm.
hasn't spent much time in these levels. That's what I'm trying to say. So you could see a quick pull to the downside towards those big ranges, or unless the broader sentiment changes or something, some news comes out about Grab that could pull it back into the channel.
Yeah, to Kaye's point there, basically this volume profile on the right side, there's basically no volume. So what he means is it's got to go from one bulk to the next bulk quicker, like very quick.
Yeah,
But as same way, if it comes back down to here, it can go back up just as quick
exactly.
because that volume's just not quite there. People react; they have buy limits, at these points, and it just goes off. But that's the range
Yeah.
that we're currently in. Okay,
Next is NU.
new holdings. I haven't had this one for a while.
Yeah, this used to be very. I think. if you notice, recently people have started talking about SoFi and a lot of fintech companies also. It's like we haven't heard those names.
It's trending very well.
Yeah. Trend is your friend, I guess.
Do you invest in this one much at all or not?
No, no. I'm not into fintech at all. Actually, after I
You used to be
liquidated
though,
my,
didn't you?
I used to do a lot. Yeah. So I actually liquidated my SoFi positions. This was, I think, earlier this year or later last year. And I think somebody responded to that. It's like, oh, we'll see about that after the earnings. I'm like, well, that's not the point. The point is I need cash for other
Yeah.
investments. It's not about hating on SoFi. It's like I just need to, free up my cash.
I would be wary of. I know it's a South American stock, I believe, primarily, so it doesn't entirely go with the not New York, the American stock exchanges. But if we do get a bit of a downturn in the market, this may just come down because obviously it's in the same realm. Um, if we break this trend line, it could be a bit scary. I think if we come back down to 1520 pretty quickly, which is obviously where the 50 moving average is as well. If we do break that, then we're looking at kind of 13 to 14 again. So just be careful of this trend line breaking because it's a very steep trend line, so they can break pretty quick. And when they break quickly, they break hard as well. But on the other hand, if we break the trend lines to the upside, that can get really euphoric and we're going to end up in 22, 23 range. But these stocks don't really move, especially if the more established they get within the industry, they don't move so erratically. I mean, you can see that
Yes.
in the chart. This is the daily now. It's very steady. It's very nice. Yeah, okay. Move on.
I think the last one we have is Elf.
Oh, okay. It's a nice one to finish on. Perhaps we can have a look at the SPY chart that I mentioned
Yes,
earlier.
let's do that. And if we have time, we can look at Amazon and a couple others too while we're at it.
Cool. Elf. This is Elf Beauty. Is that right?
I
Yes, it
think
says it right
so.
there.
I think so.
Yeah. This one's been beaten up, isn't it? I thought this was a Warren Buffett stock. Oh, no, that might have been Alta. That might have been Alta Beauty or Alta Healthcare, whatever it was. Either way, this one's not doing so well. We've got Elf ELF here, which is the moving average is just above. So you've got the 200, which is the red line, the 20 and the 50 as well. Reacting negatively off of pretty much all of them at the same time. Coming back down to this sorry, I lost my words there, but coming back down to the volume profile. It's because I just spotted this at the same time. So I was kind of thinking about that, but talking about something else. That happens a lot in my life. But we've got a bit of a bullish, a bear flag here, which is breaking.
Mm.
So they're kind of coming together. If we lose this volume, which is possible, then we could revisit these levels down here, 52, 53. Basically, it doesn't look good for upside, is what I'm trying to say. Do you see anything
And
else on this chart?
no, but I kind of align with you because on the upcoming quarter's earning, which will be reported in May, they did had a good top line and bottom line beat in the previous earning, which they reported on 2/4, which was the past week. But for the next earnings, they are expecting the revenue to actually be lower than what they reported this. So they reported 489 million revenue, which was a beat by 27 million, but they are estimating the revenue as 424 million for the next quarter, and that has led to the EPS revision down 14. So 14 analysts have a downward revision on the Elf Beauty. So that can again, be an overhang on the company. Again, we don't trade this often or invest in it. So I don't know the mechanics of the company or the industry per se, but yeah, I mean that if you have 14 analysts, giving you a downward revision with zero upward revision, I think that will be an overhang on the stock.
So with that information there, combined with the technicals I spoke about before, this could be a potential position. I probably won't take this because I've got other things going on with different stocks. But just hypothetically, if you look at these charts and you have these feelings, obviously we've come down very aggressively on Thursday. A lot of stocks did. I think that was post earnings as well, so a negative reaction. We've come back up at Friday, but obviously that could be just a bit of a market help, pushing. So I'll zoom in a bit so people can actually see. So this could obviously be resistance on Friday. So I expect potential downside Stop loss above the most recent highs, which is represented by this line. I'll color it. No, pink. There you go. So that's the most recent highs. Stop loss just above that for now. But if we do start making a move down, I'll bring that stop loss straight away to break even or just higher than that, because then your risk is very well executed at that point. And then target price, obviously down here, as we mentioned, that kind of 50 to 52 level. Again, up to you where you do that on your charts. I mean, you could actually bring it up slightly because there's a gap there, as you can see. So that would be 55. That's a very good move. Probably take a fair few weeks for that to play out, if not a couple of months. But yeah, it's intriguing, actually. Intriguing. Yeah.
Okay, you said you wanted to cover SPY, AMD, and Amazon. I do want to cover these three, and then we can call it a wrap.
So this is my SPY futures chart, which is kind of slightly different, but obviously more price action. It trades outside of market hours. We've had a hi guys from Angela. Hello.
Hey, Angela.
But yeah, from broader term, I'm going to take away a few lines. I'll get rid of the moving averages. There's a bit too much going on. We have trend lines from April of last year, so when this bull market started, and then trend lines even bigger than that, going back to, you can see, COVID and the kind of COVID highs from that move. So these trend lines are big, okay? So they're combining to this point where we're at now, and we have actually, in recent days, we've broken down below that, and we've come back up to kind of retest it and kind of come back down to break it again. Friday was a very interesting day because we have obviously a bullish engulfing candle here, which is typically bullish for future price action, but I'm just not sure. I'm going to give it a couple of days to see the price action, see how it plays out, because we could very easily see an even bigger candle, maybe coming down to just over halfway, which would be good in terms of the kind of bearish feel that I feel. The next one, obviously, breaking down below these lows, and of course, we're looking at these levels down here. But we could very easily, on the other side of that, kind of come back up to this area, and push higher and push through and get up to kind of 7,300, 7,400. But if we do that, then this box, which is my important box, maybe I should color this red. My important box is a very crucial point for me in the market. I'm going to stop waffling. What are your thoughts on where these lines are on my chart? Yeah.
I don't know, honestly. Just
it's hard, isn't it?
It's hard because if you look at the couple of lagging indicators, right? The first lagging indicator is the put to call ratio, but that can change throughout the week, and we could see that. We could see the VIX spiking. We could see I think the now with Max haven't already finished the reporting earnings, right? We kind of understand how these companies are going to spending money, right? Especially in the capex side, there's going to be a lot of spending going on about this whole AI fear. I think the key for me personally is the employment number. I think that is going to be the key coming week.
And that's on Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah, that's on Thursday.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. We'll move on to the next chart then.
Amazon, AMD, and then Angela says that she's gonna keep an eye on the IGV, which is basically the expanded tech software sector ETF, which actually has all these names: Microsoft, Palantir, Oracle, Salesforce, because they are all reporting earnings. So next week is, as I said, it was all SaaS companies, right? So a ton of SaaS companies in this. Okay. Yeah, Amazon, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I want to buy it for the long term, but I don't know where, and I don't know if I'm obviously not going to buy it now because the chart looks an absolute mess.
I think there is a very good chance they'll do the gap fill.
Oh yeah, but that's not that far away, really, is it?
Exactly.
Away. Which gap? The first one or the second one, or both?
Well, I think if we see, I think they're close enough to fill the downward gap, right? This is what 210. It's 195. I think there's a good possibility of it filling it.
Just drawing them both on the screen there. So
yeah.
The first gap's there, second gap is down here. So you're talking about them filling the gap to the downside first.
The first one, I think, is easily possible to fill that. And of course, they also created multiple gaps having a gap down. So those will be interesting as well, right?
Yeah, so we've got 195 and 176.50.
Yeah, I think 195 is more. I mean, I can anticipate that filling sooner than later. 175 is going to be interesting if that happens, which means that there's going to be much more broader pressure on the market, which means that the IGV stock expand. If SaaS reports, so this is what I think is going to happen. If SaaS is reporting any material change in the field that the customers are actually not spending money on the software subscription, I think you might even see things moving down quickly, much faster. Because in SaaS world, there are two terminologies people generally play with: it's gross retention and net retention. I think the net retention is when they do upsell. I think that's what I think. If I'm not wrong. So in the upsell, if they are not able to upsell their product to the customers, upsell or cross sell existing products, that's a red flag, because then they're saying that part of the work is getting outsourced to AI agents.
So I'm just playing with lines on the chart.
No, continue.
Those two gap fills you mentioned a minute ago on the daily chart, these actually correspond with something quite something bigger. So this is the monthly chart now. So this is 177 and 195, as we just mentioned. 177 has a real interesting point to it, because obviously this is a lot of resistance back in the kind of 2020, 2022 area. And obviously that is the gap that we're looking at if we continue going down further. It's a big gap. It's a big kind of move down, even still from here. But perhaps if we do get a market downturn, that would be a very key point of interest for a lot of investors. But in that kind of price action, that will then break this trend line, which will be even more concerning.
Yeah.
But yeah, just be careful with that if you are looking
Next
at these
is
charts.
AMD, and those are the two.
And that's a wrap.
Listen, AMD already started filling the gap.
It's a big gap, isn't it?
It is. That's a massive gap. That was the gap they created back in October of 2025 when they broke that trend line and they said, okay, we're gonna make this run.
Yes, that's 171 is the gap that Kaye's talking about there. We do also have a bit of a broader market trend line there. This could get quite dramatic. Yeah, is that where you look to add then, not 171 at that gap?
Yeah, and then of course we do have the 200-day SMA coming along 179. I think that is going to provide a very good support. But if that breaks, it's not great for the broader market, because that again puts more pressure on the whole AI thesis of GPUs and chips and all that stuff.
So you have definitely different moving average to me, because I've got the exponential ones.
Yeah, you use the EMA, I use the SMA, right? So this is
that's bounced on Thursday.
Yeah.
Off of that one. So
Yeah, SMA is far away. It's at 179. We are sitting at what, 208. So I'm not saying it's going to fill that, but there's a good support level coming through on the 200 SMA.
okay, we'll conclude it there. I think well, a lot of our thoughts today were quite mixed. We had lots of bullish stocks, lots of kind of negative stocks as well. So it's worth kind of diving in and kind of thinking about that with your own analysis as well. Thanks to everyone who joined along. We had many viewers today. We had Money Managed as always. We had Verla popping along, Nehalala, which I'm not too sure if I can say that properly, but I'm pretty sure I nailed that. Ramesh and obviously Angela as well, amongst others. Thank you for joining once again. I know it's Super Bowl day, and obviously it's not going to be.
Yes,
You're not
that's
going to be
true.
watching us like for now, but maybe you can watch us after the Super Bowl once you've kind of had a few drinks and enjoyed the American football. I don't watch it, so I don't know what I'm talking about with American football, but they throw an egg, in my opinion. But yeah, it's okay. It's coming up to Easter in a way. Yeah, trading this week. What are your kind of thoughts? What's your approach for this week then, Kaye?
I think for this week, I'm solely focused on the Rivian news.
Yeah, same.
That's
I
it.
think we're gonna come together and maybe join allegiances for the earnings on Thursday. So stick around for that. It will be posted on my channel, I believe. But if there's anything that changes, then of course we'll post it on the socials. But massive thank you for Wolf has used the platform. We really appreciate it. That's at Wolf Financial. Obviously the avatars in the top right hand corner, so be aware of that. They're massive in the industry, and we really appreciate what he does. for the industry. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone. We'll be back next week. Next week?
Next week,
Yes.
yes.
Yes, the week. I think it's the week after I'm off, but we'll get to that another time. We're back next week, 1 p.m. Eastern time, American football list. So yeah, make sure you tune in to us to waffle on about stocks. But yeah, trade safe, and we'll see you next week. See you later,
All right.
everyone.
Take care.